All right, so I'm going to start, and I've got my AI attendance meeting. I actually have the AI companion turned on. It's a duel of AI summaries at this point. So let's see how that works. I'm actually here really to talk about the flexible path. The work that I do is actually interesting. It's an ecosystem. So essentially, if you don't know who I am, I'm Nola Simon. I'm a hybrid remote futurist. And my background really started with working remotely. I started advocating for it for myself in 2011. And I started a pilot in 2012. We lost it in 2013, experienced a return to office mandate. It's feeling very 10 years ago for me these days. And then gradually we worked our way back up so that I got to 1 day a week, had a massive accident, crashed my car, made a million people late for work, switched to jobs so that I got 100% remote, and then I got restructured. And I realized that the most meaningful work that I'd ever done was advocating for flexibility. And the business that I'm trying to build, which has been challenging, is teaching organizations how to do hybrid remote distributed work better. What does that look like? Where does this go in the future? How do we make it sustainable? And, you know, with any kind of work, there's the corporations, but there's also the individuals. And right at the moment, the corporations are pushing back pretty hard. That commercial real estate is a sunk cost fallacy that is really hard to work around. And so there's a lot of people who actually wish they could just kind of hit reset and go back to what 2019 was. And of course, that's not possible. It's not realistic. And that's not where the future is going to go. But there's a belief system that exists. And so the goal is really how do you continue working the problem when you've hit a roadblock? And so the other side of the equation is, of course, the individuals. And this is where I think the opportunity is because individuals have much more power than anybody ever gives them credit for, than they themselves even realize. And honestly, my experience speaks to that. I started advocating for myself, and it led to LinkedIn Top Voice, it led to extensive media, it led to, uh, you know, 10 years of understanding of what it's like to work some version of hybrid remote and where does that go. All right, my experience is not just pandemic experience. It's exceeded that well before by at least 8 years. So that's where I have a lot of insight to be able to share with individuals who want to advocate for more flexibility. It's really easy for people to say, if you don't have the flexibility you want, get a new job. Go work for yourself. Just do something that doesn't impact the organization because the organization is going to do what the organization is going to do. However, it's not that easy to get a new job. It's a kind of brutal job market. I'm always looking for organizations who want to bring the work that I do internally too. And it's a challenging job market because I'm out there talking to people and applying for things as well too myself. So it's not necessarily easy to just get that flexibility that you want. You can't just up and leave and get a job like you could before. Thousands and thousands of people have been laid off, and right at the moment, it's not a positive economic environment, right? So if you've got a job, you're scared that you might lose it. You're scared that you might be next. And that's where it's like, how can you negotiate from within to get more of the flexibility that you want and to set yourself up well for future? Even if the current present doesn't look the way that you want it to, and that you're having to make choices and decisions that you don't necessarily want. So I experienced, as I said, in 2013, I was mandated back to the office. I actually lost my full accommodation for hybrid work. Well, actually, it was a fully remote due to an exception because of an accident. I lost that in 24 hours. I had to be back in the office or my next trip was out the door. So I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like. I had small kids. I didn't have a lot of support in terms of babysitting and alternative parenting arrangements or care arrangements. Um, but that's where the advocacy work comes in. So my return to office um, was difficult, but I started looking at the skills that they needed to build to make it more feasible. I looked at the reasons that they gave us for um, pulling us back into the office. And back then, it was all related to technology and infrastructure and processes and procedures to make sure that the work was being done, people felt secure, and that they could trust that the work was being done and people were working in ways that were productive. But also building out skills like, I taught everybody how to handle webinars in 2014, which came in really handy when the pandemic happened and everybody's life became a webinar and Zoom calls. I was 7 years ahead of that trend because I identified that as a need back then, right? So I was forced back to return to office, but what I did was I personally set up training. I coached people individually. I went to their desks and installed the software and taught them how to log in and sent them training documentation and made it available so that it was evergreen information that was always going to be updated. I became the go-between between, back then we were using WebEx, so it was all handled by Bell. And so I became the go-between between our IT group and Bell and our management team. I became the resource that didn't exist. And I systematically went through all of the project management feedback and identified all of the issues that the team had had problems with, right? So when we went back to uh, a version of hybrid, we started again with 1 day a week and gradually got ourselves back up to 4 days a week at home. I had used my return to office mandate as a way to address all of the technology concerns that existed in terms of process and procedure and resources, so that we were setting ourselves up for success, right? So that's really where you have to identify where you are, what your status is, and what it is you want. Um, it's a current state assessment. It's an understanding of what's working, what's not working, and where do I want to be, and what can I do that's going to facilitate that. That's why I called it the flexible path, because it's a journey. You're going to run into obstacles. There's going to be things that, come at you that block the path. You're going to have to figure out how to go around it. You're going to have to climb hills, go down valleys, swim if necessary. There's lots of different ways to approach the problem, and it requires tenacity, it requires persistence. And if you look at the top skills that um, the um, the World Economic Forum is saying are necessary for success in the future of work, it's dealing with ambiguity, it's dealing with communication, it's dealing with persistence and resilience, and learning critical thinking and strategic thinking. All of those skills are really well represented in setting up hybrid, remote, or distributed work, figuring out alternate ways that you can design work and um, really create the future. Futurism really is itself really a great way to learn all of those skills too. So it's about negotiating, learning to advocate and negotiate for what it is you want. But at the same time, while we're doing all of that, we're really building out skills. And that's something that we can co-create. So I'm going to be doing this type of thing again this week. I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and I'll actually, I'm still playing with the setup, but I've got enough there that I could actually demo some of it to you. And you can see what the platform Mighty Networks looks like. This morning I shared like a tutorial that you can actually view. Mighty Networks did a full tour of what the platform looks like. I shared that link. Um, and really it comes down to, what do you need to feel that joining the community is right for you, right? So who's the community for? The community is for anybody who wants more flexibility than they currently have. And they want to understand what it is they can do and how they can set themselves up to get more of what they want. And get less of what they don't want. And how do you do it in such a way that it's actually going to build your visibility? It's going to build your personal brand. It's going to build out your skills so that you are going to be, that person that leadership is going to look to as an example of a person who can be successful working hybrid remote because you've got the initiatives to really go after what it is you want, right? And again, I've also added in a section for leaders because leaders are kind of caught in the middle. I've raised that alarm for a couple of years now. I'm worried about the middle manager leaders who want and need those flexibility. A lot of middle managers tend to be parents and caregivers as well too, so they want flexibility, but they're in a position where they have to actually enforce the return to office mandates and the number of days in the office and just make sure that there's compliance happening because that's what their senior leadership has mandated or determined that they want. But those leaders don't necessarily agree, right? So they're doubters. They doubt that that's the way the future is going to go, but they're stuck in the middle. And if you think about it, it's enforcing values that they don't necessarily believe in, right? So, how do you deal with the emotional toll that causes? There's such a thing as called moral injury, where you're actually taking action that go counter across your values. That becomes very, very challenging to deal with. But also, like, you want to do right by your team. So you're advocating, you've got to advocate for your team, you've got to advocate for yourself, but you have to do it in such a way that you don't become a target for senior leaders who believe that you're undermining their mission. And so I've created a separate course, training, community space, whatever you want to call it, that is for those leaders who are in that special precarious situation. And you'll have full access to the community, but you'll also have access to the resources that I'm creating for leaders as well. Right. And I don't know if you saw that Hayes report that came out that said over like 70% of staff are talking about actually wanting to quit. Well, that includes leaders, right? And what does work look like if that many people are that unhappy that they would quit their job in a heartbeat if the economy was better? And they were, they'll quit for compensation, but they'll also quit for benefit and skills training and flexibility. Those are all factors that are factoring into that desire for a better job that hits more of what people want, right? Uh, Organizations are betting that that's not going to happen because people can't afford it. They don't want to walk away from relationships. But I wouldn't take that bet because I did. I walked away because I wasn't getting what I needed. And I walked away twice in order to maintain my flexibility. And even when my kids were older, I still wanted flexibility. And I still want flexibility today. So I wouldn't take that bet because people are going to find ways to make things happen. And if you talk to anybody, almost everybody wants some version of flexibility. And it's more about the choice and autonomy. It's not that they never want to meet in person. It's not that they won't go to an office, but they want that office to be valuable and they want to have input into the work that they're doing when they're actually going to be appearing in person, right? And that's where that flexibility can come into hand, right? How do you design your work and your interactions in a way that's going to supercharge the work and fuel your success personally, but also for the business, right? And that's really what the flexible path is about, is how do we work together to co-create the future? And it's individualized. That's why the clarity section of the work, I'm offering like a one-to-one coaching where you tell me what it is you've determined that you need, and then we look at what you individually need, right? The leadership aspect is going to have one-to-one interaction with me on that as well too, because personalization is really where it's going to be. You can't change the company, but you can change your reactions. And that's how we build for the future. Anyways, That's my intro for today, and hopefully that's helpful. I'll share summary later and try to share the recording. I'm not sure how this is going to look with my Read AI attending this, so we'll see what this looks like. Um, but again, thank you for paying attention, and I really look forward to seeing you in the community. If the community is not for you, tell somebody else about it. That's the gift that you can give for me if you pay attention to my work. Share it because that network experience, that referral, that recommendation, all of that is really powerful. And that's where, community is useful because it's how people interact that make that difference in community and how they value each other. So yes, I'm hosting it, but the community is not all about me. It's about what the people want and how you connect and you create that sense of belonging. And so if it's not for you, that's great. Totally understand that. But maybe you know somebody who could really benefit and who has that willingness to uh, co create for the future. Anyways, thanks. Talk later.